Sorry, everything's a mess. The garden's kind of being created and set up right now, so there's tools and parts everywhere. But start off, here is a 44-gallon Brute trash can. These are NSF rated, so they're food safe. And this is basically used as a reverse osmosis storage tank. So there's 44 gallons of reverse osmosis in there, and that's basically just used for water changes, so I can quickly get it out. And here is a 1/4-inch reverse osmosis line that just goes in, screws into the back of the autofill valve. So anytime that valve drops down, below the water line, it lets water in to there. So that stays full at 44 gallons all the time. And then this is the main reverse osmosis line coming in. I have that split off with a shut-off valve that you can see goes into this tank. And this is basically the nutrient and water change tank for the tomato garden. This is a 20-gallon Brute storage container, also NSF safe. So what we have in here is a hydroponics water pump that's pumping out here. There's a T-valve that goes to a shutoff, and then another line that goes to another shutoff there. So basically how this works is when this pump kicks on, when the garden's normally working, this line here is going to my sump pump well as a drain. So this usually stays closed, and this valve stays open, and what it does is it pumps the nutrient water into here, sends it down that tube, and then here is the tomato tent. So we got two Viper Spectra 600 watt LED grow lights going. And then down here, you can see here's the water line from that tub coming in. Splits out to each of the tubs. So you can see the water line goes in, splits to a T, and then in this tub I basically, I'm using all 3/4-inch HydroFlow gardening hose. And so it goes into a T inside here, loops around another T over here, sends a line, and then I basically drilled holes in the tube and put in numerous spray heads, 1/4-inch spray heads. So when that pump kicks on, it's spraying water into here, and tees off, runs down, and is running water into this one as well. This one does not have the center bit on it, as this one is going to be a large tomato plant. This one, as you can see in the lid, it actually has 2 net pots. These are going to be cherry tomatoes, so kind of one here, one here. These will make sure all the roots and rock wool stay saturated and well watered. And then obviously air stones in here. These tubes here you can kind of see come out, and these are 2-inch PVC drain tubes. So that kind of comes out and goes around back there. And then you can see that kind of flows right in here. So that's kind of the return water line for all those. And so the water will basically be filled up in here up until this reaches the maximum level. This keeps it any time basically the water is getting consumed and drops down lower. When this drops down, it allows reverse osmosis water in, which will top off the tank and always keep the water level consistent. Obviously air stones for adding oxygen to the water. These are in the water mixing tank, and obviously in the plant buckets, and I'm waiting for one more for the big tomato plant. So once plants are established in here, I don't have to lift these lids off and mess with them here. All the water is drained back into this external one outside the tent. When it's time for water changes, shut this valve off so water does not go back into them. Turn this valve on to open it, and that forces all the water from this pump out this way, and that runs all the way over to my sump pump well. And puts the nutrients water in the sump pump well, which then I have an outside sump pump storage system that then, when those storage tanks of sump pump water outside get full, it sends it to sprinklers in my front and backyard. So I'm reusing the nutrient wastewater from my hydroponics. Is actually going to be going out to my lawn and plants, so they'll be getting nutrient water via the sump pump well. So yeah, water change is pretty easy. Flip a couple valves, turn on the pump. All the water from these two bins flow back via this 2-inch PVC as the water drops. This is pumping it out to the sump pump. And then when the water change is done, I flip the knob, shut this off again, open that one back up, put a pump in this big boy of water and pump the fresh water into here until it gets full, add my nutrients. And then I'm still setting this one up a little bit, but this is going to have the Blue Labs Guardian TDS PPM monitor and the Blue Labs pH controller hooked up into the water well here that will monitor the nutrients, pH, keep the pH at my desired preference level, all that good stuff. So that's basically the setup of multi-container with the water, fresh water spraying through these black hoses and sprayers, and then it drains back out through the PVC. Then I have, in the corner here, we have a huge air pump with a fan on it to keep it cool when it's running. That way, being that this doesn't get quite as hot from this fan, the air going to the plants is not hot air. And then I'm going to have a tube hooked up to the air intake of this that goes outside the tent. Or, I'm sorry, it's hooked up right here. So this takes air from outside the tent, the colder air from outside down by the floor, runs it in here, so we're getting the coolest air that we can without being refrigerated air being pumped. And then we have fans. There's going to be a few more in here. These are set on digital timers, so they're not constantly on. They kind of turn on every now and then to kind of provide some airflow and whatnot in here. So that's basically the grow tent right now. And then over here, here's all the nutrients. We use the General Hydroponics line. So Armor SI, Cali Magic, and then the Flora series, Flora Micro, Flora Grow, Flora Bloom, Floralicious Plus, Diamond Nectar, Flora Blend, Liquid Cool Bloom, Flora Nectar. Use some of the Super Thrive, this is good stuff. And then of course for the new plants, the Rapid Start, a root enhancer. Over to the strawberry tent. Here are our Blue Lab Guardian meters. So this one showing we have a PPM EC 700, so the European standard of PPM, but we're at 570, 69 degree water. And then our pH controller, disregard that, I haven't reprogrammed. This is not actually dosing right now, as I'm kind of just doing some initial monitoring as we just started this. I'm basically seeing if, once I get the pH level where I want at 6, after leaving this, basically seeing if the pH level is going to automatically go up over time or if it goes down. And based on that, I'll either hook up to these lines here. These will basically be going into this tub, and one of them into a bottle of pH up or pH down. And whenever this gets outside of my range, which would probably be about 5.8 to 6.1, it would dose either pH up or down to make it consistent. So in this room we have one Viper Spectra 600 watt LED grow light. Here's our strawberry plants. These have only been in, we actually transplanted these from soil to rock wool cubes. So they went through a little bit of shock, so there's a couple spots on them that don't look great, like there. And there's a leaf that got ripped here. But besides that, they're actually really dark green, looking healthy. This whole thing's been sprouting off. So this container is set up pretty similar. This is kind of obviously the one for the plants. So we have our water feed going in. Similar to the other ones, there's a black hose that wraps around on the inside with sprayers. See if I can kind of get in there. A couple air stones going. And then this is the one that we use for water changes and monitoring. So obviously there you'll see the auto fill valve going. We got the pump in there. And then we have, see if we can do that without spilling. We have our pH probe and temperature probe. And then the TDS meter. So those kind of hang out here in the corner, monitoring the nutrient and pH solution. And then obviously you can see this one has a T out as well. That valve is for water changes that goes to the sump pump, which is shut off right now. And this valve allows it to go into the container there. And then obviously, fan to get some breeze, helps strengthen the stems and the plants. And the air pump for that one is right here. And that's about it. Oh, also the pumps. The pumps that spray the water are hooked up to these timer cycle things as well. So that allows me to go through and do timing cycle. So it turns the pump on for 5 minutes, and then it after the 5 minutes it shuts off for 2 hours, and it just repeats that cycle over and over. So as you turn this on, you can probably now hear it kind of spraying. Oh, don't want to open that, it's spraying out. So that's the hydroponics setup right now. More to come.